Good morning, friends. Welcome to PrepPluse. Hoping you all are doing good. So, without any delay, let's start the discussion of the Hindu newspaper of the 21st July 2025. इस डिस्कशन में हम उन एग्जाम रिलेवेंट आर्टिकल्स को डिटेल में पढ़ेंगे जो इंपॉर्टेंट है, लेकिन कुछ आर्टिकल्स शायद एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से उतने इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है, तो भी हम उन आर्टिकल्स में से कुछ फैक्ट्स और डेटा उठाएंगे जो एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है. तो शुरू करते हैं. So the first piece of news is about India-China relation. Now this particular news article is very important from regional geopolitical perspective. So the article is about Kailash Mansarovar Yatra giving a new impetus to the China-India ties. This particular statement was given by the Chinese envoy. Now, China is prepared to discuss refining border management and control rules to resolve issues around its disputed boundary with India after the 4-year military standoff ended at the line of actual control. He expressed optimism that revival of the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra would inject impetus to ties and that direct flights would be launched soon. He further rejected criticism of China's support to Pakistan during Operation Sindoor. He said that bilateral ties were not targeted at a third country. He warned that comments by Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju and other Indian officials supporting the Dalai Lama's statement on his successor could cause friction within the India-China bilateral ties. He further pointed to the flurry of high-level visits from India to Shanghai Cooperation Organization meetings over the past month as proof of improving ties. Such visits included the visit by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. Now reading further into the article, he said that in the next stage, China is willing to maintain communication with India through diplomatic and military channels and in the spirit of equal consultation and mutual and equal security, further refine the border area management and control rules and strengthen confidence building measures so as to achieve a sustainable peace and tranquility in the border areas. He added that resuming the pilgrimage for Indian pilgrims to the sacred mountain and lake in Tibet is an important initiative taken by China to improve the relations between the two countries. He said that China hopes that direct flights between the two countries will be launched as soon as possible. He did not respond to any specific query about why SCO had not included India's concern over the Pahalgam terror attack and cross-border terrorism in the joint statement, pointing that instead to an SCO code of conduct that members could express their positions but should avoid bringing bilateral conflicts to discussions in a reference to India-Pakistan tensions. When asked about the statement of India's Deputy Chief of the Army Staff Lieutenant General Rahul R. Singh about China's support to Pakistan during the 4-day Operation Sindoor in May, the envoy said that China-Pakistan ties did not target any third party. In his comments, Lieutenant General Singh had suggested that China had used the neighbor Pakistan to cause pain to India in the manner of a borrowed knife. He said that defense and security cooperation is part of the normal cooperation between China and Pakistan. While sidestepping another question about whether China's trilaterals with other countries in South Asia, including a recent China-Bangladesh-Pakistan initiative on trade, a China-Pakistan-Afghanistan initiative on infrastructure, were a way of cutting India out of the SAARC region. To this, he replied that India was welcome to join any of the initiatives and hoped that China and India could create other trilateral partnerships with countries in the region. He claimed that in the past 12 years since the launch of China's Belt and Road Initiative, which India refused to join, trade between China and South Asian countries doubled from less than $100 billion to about $200 billion. Now speaking about Dalai Lama's succession, he said that the issue of the Dalai Lama's reincarnation was an internal matter for China and warned that statements from India would be seen as interference. During the celebration of his 90th birthday in Dharamshala earlier this month, the 14th Dalai Lama had announced that his successor would be chosen by his office and not by China or any other authority, a statement that was supported by Minister of Minority Affairs Kiran Rijiju. Subsequently, the Minister of External Affairs has said that Indian government had no position and makes no statement on the issue. Now to this, the Chinese envoy said that, however, it cannot be denied that some officials of India openly expressed their welcome and support for the statement by the 14th Dalai Lama and attended his 90th birthday celebrations as well. He further said that such words and deeds are in essence promoting the interfering in China's internal affairs using Tibet-related issues contrary to Indian government's public stance. Now the next article is about an e-governance initiative that is Niva software. Delhi Assembly Speaker said that a 3-day training program for all legislators to familiarize themselves with the National E-Vidhan application, which is a software that aims to usher in transparency, efficiency and sustainability by enabling paperless functioning in the assembly. Now, the launch of the program demonstrates the assembly's proactive approach in aligning legislative procedures with the modern practices. Next article talks about the national education policy's push that puts focus on Indian knowledge system in teachers training. Now, the National Education Policy 2020, which emphasizes the study of Indian knowledge systems in school, has led to the State Council of Educational Research and Training (SCERT) Delhi to become more focused on training its B.Ed students on integrating Indian knowledge systems into their lesson plans. Now, the training is aimed at teaching things that are not necessarily taught in the books in an attempt to create global teachers with 21st century skills. For example, We have always been taught that the Wright brothers flew the first aircraft, but the first aircraft was actually flown in India by Bapuji Talpade in Mumbai in 1895, 8 years before the Wright brothers. Now, as part of the IKS training, the BA students are also being taught about how Sushruta performed an eye surgery as far back as 6th century and how certain chemicals were mentioned in the Hindu epic the Mahabharata. The budding teachers are expected to use their training while teaching to help students learn more about Indian culture. Now, the students will be trained on how to make their pedagogy plans using the Panchakosha philosophy. The concept of Panchakosha, 5 layers of consciousness, has its origin in the Upanishads. The national education policy, which aims to integrate Indian knowledge systems in all levels of education, states that the rich heritage of ancient and eternal Indian knowledge and thought has been a guiding light for this policy. The pursuit of the knowledge, that is jnana, wisdom, pragya, and truth, satya, was always considered in Indian thought and philosophy as the highest human goal. Now, some students have cited an example of how Indian knowledge system can be incorporated in daily teaching. For example, in chemistry, in the Mahabharata, Arjuna used certain chemicals as makeup to disguise himself as a woman. Now, while teaching chemistry, one of the students said that she can teach students about the states of matter and how ice melts while teaching upon the concept of Annamaya Kosha, the outer physical layer of the body, which is one of the Panchakoshas. Pranamaya Kosha, that is energy level, comes into play, and while teaching students about how liquid changes to gas as there is a transfer of energy. The student further said that she will employ the concept of Anandamaya Kosha, the spiritual level, when asking students to reflect on where they see chemistry in their daily lives. Now, the next article is about human-animal conflict, which says that at least 25 people in Maharashtra's Chandrapur Forest Circle have been killed in instances of human-wildlife conflict attacks, especially by tigresses. So far this year, the key to mitigating such incidents lies in the relationship between the people, tigers, and the government. Now, this particular article has got many facts which are exam relevant. For example, Tendupatta are known as Indian ebony leaves. The Chandrapur Forest Circle, it spans over 4,081 square kilometers, now is home to 347 tigers, up from 191 in 2020. The Tadoba Andheri Tiger Reserve, which is part of the Chandrapur Forest Circle. Now, some facts about the wildlife. For example, a male tiger requires a minimum home range of 40 square kilometers. Today, at least 4 tigers share that space. The forest area has remained the same, but it has been fragmented by urbanization. Highways and expanding villages have cut off tigers from prey. Farmers, tendu leaf and moa collectors, Guraki shepherd, that is the shepherd community, and those working for the forest department within the jungle are the most impacted by human-wildlife conflict. There is the famous Gorewada Zoo in Nagpur, and it is said that tigers involved in conflict end up in the zoo as no reserve or national park accepts them. Now, a tigress kills for the protection of herself and her cubs rather than attacking humans. The forest department is working on a war footing to prevent the human-wildlife conflict. They are interacting with Gram Sabhas to create awareness, taking initiatives to reduce the dependence of villages on the forest, and using technology to monitor the movement of tigers in sensitive villages. The forest officials believe that most of the attacks are by female tigers and their sub-adults between 1.5 to 2.5 years who are pushed to live on the borders of the forest due to territorial fights, mostly among the males but sometimes among females too. Now, the problem lies in the buffer zone of the Tadoba Andheri Tiger Reserve and territorial area of the Chandrapur's 3 zones that are not part of the Tiger Reserve, where food is low and competition among tigers is high because of the urbanization and land fragmentation. The forest department says that it has installed 982 camera traps across the circle for surveillance, and real-time monitoring is carried out using stealth cameras to alert villagers. While joint patrols are conducted to prevent tigers and wildlife from getting electrocuted, they are also notifying villagers of the locations where there are frequent movements of tigers. Now, the next article talks about artificial intelligence, that is how India can reframe the artificial intelligence debate. Now, New Delhi is supposed to host the AI Impact Summit in February 2026, where it can show that governments and not just corporations can steer artificial intelligence for public good. Now, the Paris AI Summit of February 2025, which was meant to unify, ended in division. It was meant to protect humanity's digital future. Now it faces the risk of splintering. India has standing and the credibility to bridge such divides. Now, India's Minister of Electronics and Information Technology began preparations. In June, it launched a nationwide consultation through the My Government platform, where students, researchers, startups, and civil society groups submitted ideas. Now, what was the brief about? The brief was simple: to show how AI can advance inclusive growth, improve development, and protect the planet. These ideas will shape the agenda and the final declaration. This turned the consultation into capital and gave India a democratic edge that no previous host has enjoyed. Now, there are 5 suggestions rooted in India's digital experience. Now, what are these 5 suggestions? First is, India's digital tool proved that technology can serve everyone. Aadhaar provides secure identity to more than 1 billion people. The UPI moves money in seconds. The summit in 2026 can borrow that spirit. Each delegation could announce one clear goal to achieve within 12 months. A company might cut its data center electricity use, A university could offer a free AI course for rural girls. A government might translate essential health advice into local languages using AI. All pages could be listed on a public website and tracked through a scoreboard a year later. Report cards are more interesting than press releases. Second suggestion is to bring the global south to the front row. As a leader of the global south, India must endeavor to have a wide participation as possible. India should also push for an AI for Billions fund that is seeded by development banks and Gulf investors, which could pay for cloud credits, fellowship, and local language datasets. India could launch a multilingual model challenge for, say, 50 underserved languages and award prizes before the closing dinner. The message is simple: talent is everywhere and not just in California or Beijing. Third suggestion is that create a common safety check. Since the Bletchley Summit in 2023 or the AI Safety Summit of 2023, experts have urged red teaming and stress tests. Many national AI safety institutes have sprung up, but no shared checklist exists. India could endeavor to broker them into a global AI safety collaborative, which can share red team scripts, incidents logs, and stress tests on any model above an agreed compute line. Our own institute can post an open evaluation kit with code and datasets for bias robustness. First suggestion is to offer a usable middle road on rules. The United States fears heavy regulations. Europe rolls out its own AI Act. China trusts states' control. Now, most nations want something in between. India can voice that balance. It can draft a voluntary frontier AI code of conduct based on the Seoul Pledge, but add teeth to it, and publish an external red team results within 90 days. Disclose compute once it crosses a line. Fifth, to avoid fragmentation, splintered summits serve no one. The US and China eye each other across the frontier AI race. Now, New Delhi cannot erase that tensions but can blunt it. The summit agenda must be broad, inclusive, focus on global good. And to conclude, if India can turn participation into progress, it will not just be hosting a summit, it will reframe its identity on a cutting edge issue. Now, the next article is about what is the European Commission's age check plan to keep children safe online. So, the European Commission is developing an age verification app under the Digital Services Act to prevent minors from accessing harmful online content. Digital Services Act is one of the important questions which have been asked in different exams earlier. So, while claiming to protect adult user privacy, many critics argue that the move risks compromising privacy and fails to effectively safeguard children. Now, what is the European Commission age verification debate? The European Union has in the recent past enacted multiple pieces of legislation to regulate the operations of large online platforms such as e-commerce giants, social media companies, and even pornography hosting websites. In particular, the European Commission has highlighted some risks that children face when they are online. Now, digital advocates have previously recommended that the user interface of a large digital platform could be adjusted on the basis of users' age, with children receiving private accounts and having their safety or well-being features turned on by default. Now, one way this could be done is through an app that verifies users' age online, and in order to be certain that children are not using adult accounts. So, the European Commission on July 14 presented guidelines concerning the protection of minors on online platforms, along with the prototype of an age verification app under the Digital Services Act. Now, this particular app is built on the same technical specification as the European Digital Identity Wallets. Denmark, Greece, Spain, France, and Italy are some of the first countries that will work alongside the Commission with the aim of launching their own national age verification apps in the future in their own languages. Now, how will age verification affect the privacy of adults? Critics of the move believe that it violates privacy rights and can put their security online at risk and make their browsing activities easier to track and monetize. European Commission has defended the privacy standards of its prototype app and said that it will enable age verification while preventing privacy violations. Now, France will be one of the first countries that will try out the age verification app prototype. The next article is about Prime Minister Modi to visit United Kingdom and Maldives this week. So, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will embark on a two-nation visit to the United Kingdom and the Maldives from July 23rd to 26th. Now, during the visit to United Kingdom, the Prime Minister is expected to unveil the bilateral trade agreement that was announced by both sides on May 6th. Now, both sides are expected to exchange views on the issues of regional and global importance. Mr. Modi had announced that the trade deal on May 6th, describing it as ambitious and mutually beneficial, while the British government has described the agreement as the biggest and the most economically significant bilateral trade deal. Now, Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal had visited United Kingdom earlier in June to lay the groundwork for the unveiling of the free trade agreement. The visit will include a review of comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries with a specific focus on trade and economy, technology and innovation, defense, security, climate, health, education, and people-to-people ties. Further, Mr. Modi will travel to the Maldives on July 25th at the invitation of the President Mohammad Muizzu. He will be the guest of honor at the 60th Independence Day celebration of the Maldives on July 26th. The two leaders will also take stock of the progress in the implementation of the India-Maldives joint vision for a comprehensive economic and maritime security partnership, which was adopted during the state visit of the President of Maldives to India in October 2024. The next piece of article is about NDRF training dogs for use in disaster operation. Now, NDRF stands for the National Disaster Response Force, which will soon press into service its first contingent of cadaver dogs who can sniff out the dead or human remains in a disaster zone. NDRF has commented that to train the special canines, largely from the Belgian Malinois and Labrador breeds, the force has procured a special scent from abroad that smells akin to the odor emitted by a dead body. Now, utilizing the golden hour of finding life during a disaster has been the guiding principle of the rescuers, and hence finding the dead or mortal remains was not a priority. But now, however, force is also part of operations where NDRF is tasked with retrieving bodies from under the debris. NDRF also said that finding bodies or human remains is important to give closure to the families and loved ones. Now, next article is about Russia-Ukraine war. Russia has said that it is open to peace with Ukraine, but achieving goals remains priority. Let's dig into this article. Russia is open to peace with Ukraine, but achieving its goal remains a priority. And this statement came after the US President Donald Trump gave Moscow, Russia, a 50-day deadline to agree to a ceasefire or face tougher sanctions. Now, Moscow has repeatedly rejected accusations from Kyiv and its Western partners of stalling peace talks. President Vladimir Putin has repeatedly spoken of a desire to bring the Ukrainian settlement to a peaceful conclusion as soon as possible. But this is a long process and it requires efforts, and it is not that easy. Now, Russia has said that the main thing for us is to achieve our goals, and our goals are clear: that any peace deal should see Ukraine withdraw from the 4 regions that Russia illegally annexed in September 2022 but never fully captured. It also wants Ukraine to renounce its bid to join NATO and accept strict limits on its armed forces, demands which Kyiv and its Western allies have rejected. Now, coming to the last article of today's discussion, that is Moon Day. Now, International Moon Day is celebrated every year on July 28 to commemorate the humankind's first landing on the moon by the Apollo 11 mission in 1969. The UN General Assembly formally recognized this date in 2021 following a proposal recommended by the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. The commemoration also aims to highlight the collective progress of all nations in exploring the moon. Now, according to the UN, International Moon Day would serve to promote sustainable practices in space, international cooperation, peaceful exploration, and the responsible use of lunar resources. So friends, I hope आपको ये डिस्कशन अच्छा लगा होगा और आपकी एग्जाम प्रिपरेशन में ये हेल्पफुल रहा होगा. Thank you for listening to us, and please subscribe to our channel for more such content. Thank you.